Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter at Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at the Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges and subscribe to us wherever you listen.
And you're going to want to follow us and give us that 5-star review and all of that right now. Do it.
And everyone, please read the MMA scoring criteria. That's what this show is based on. You can find it at abcboxing.com.
Dan, first off, before we even get into this, I just want to say how much of a pleasure it was to watch these fights live with you.
It was a great time. We had an awesome night, I think.
Now, when I say live, I don't mean we flew to Singapore. We were not there. We were in our little hidey hole in New Jersey, at a Buffalo Wild Wings, which lied to me on their menu about the chocolate cake that I ordered for myself. The menu says it's got vanilla ice cream with it. Comes out, no vanilla ice cream. I asked waitress, hey, where's the vanilla ice cream? I was more polite than that. And they're like, yeah, it's extra. And now I'm less polite, and I say, no, it's not. It's on the menu. They're like, oh, no, it's changed. I'm like, well, you didn't tell me that when I ordered it.
Just pointed at the menu for a while.
I'm like, oh, dude, I had a hard time getting over it. And you know, Dan could even corroborate this too. And I even said to him, I'm like, I want to watch the fights, but I also really want to call the manager over and talk about this because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, your menu says one thing, you're telling me another, but only after I have ordered this food.
Yeah. It was
not good. Good.
It was kind of funny from my perspective.
Oh, I'm sure you were having a blast with it. Dude, I'd be laughing too. If it was just the other way around, I'd be laughing at me too, really. But, and it's funny. Like, it is funny. I can say that right now. I wasn't like mad. I was like...
It would have been different if she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot we changed it.
I know, that's the thing. There was no contrition, right? Yeah. She just didn't seem to care. It's not like she was overloaded.
Yeah, she's like, oh, no, we don't do that no more.
I'm sympathetic to the service industry. I've never worked in the food service industry. My wife does. She works for Starbucks. She's been doing this for just about 16 years now. So, you know, I am sympathetic to that industry and you know, waitresses who work for tips and all that kind of thing and all that. But it's just, what, you can't just give me the courtesy when I order it and be like, oh, you know, it doesn't come with the ice cream now. It's extra. Because then I might decide differently. I might make a different choice. Or I might just say, all right, sure. And then we're fine. Everything's fine then. Communication is key out there. The dear listeners, if you take nothing away from this, communication is key. Also, take away what we say about the scoring of the fights, because that's a big part of the show, ain't it?
That is quite a big part. Yeah.
Enough about cake. Enough about me, you know, whining about cake. Let's talk about some awesome fights that we got to watch together.
This was a really good card,
especially at the top. But yeah.
There was a lot of fights. I was like, oh, that's fight of the night. Wait, and then it just got better and better. And then the main event, obviously, that's fight of the night. I mean, that's fight of the year.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my question. Is it fight of the year?
Yeah, I'm not holding off judgment on that. Fight of the year.
I mean, we can of course see what else comes along.
As of now, it is fight of the year.
I don't think it's fair to just close the book on it, but absolutely, no. I think right now, without a shadow of a doubt, that was a fight. That's a memorable fight. That's a fight we're going to be talking about in years from now. I don't want to say, is it a GOAT level fight? Is it the greatest, light heavyweight fight of all time? You know, I had those thoughts. We kind of, you know, mused about it, out loud yesterday. But like, I'm just not ready to go there right now. We're too snap in MMA. We're too snap judgment, right? But it's definitely a memorable fight. It's one I'm going to think about for years to come, I think. And I think that says a lot.
You said mid fight during one of the momentum shifts, one way or the other. There was plenty of them. I think we're watching a Rocky fight.
Well, yeah, it also felt like that in the sense that it was like just a lot of heavy damage landing, and I mean, I wouldn't say there were super winging punches like level of Rocky, but you know, not that far off. It was just wild. It was a wild experience, and it was an experience too. It was like watching this was an experience, and not just like, oh, it's another fight, you know?
Yeah, really great fight with a really shocking way it ended.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, Teixeira lost his title. Jiri Prochazka is the new champion. He was down on the cards. Jiri was going into the fifth round. He was down 1 point on one card, 2 points on another, and it was tied on a third. So realistically, barring a 10-8, which could happen, we're looking at at best for him a draw if it gets to the cards, and more likely it would have been a loss for Teixeira or a loss for Prochazka, especially because up until, like, let's say 40 seconds to go in that fight,
that was all.
It
Teixeira,
still looked like
that
Teixeira
round.
was going to win that fight.
He took over the striking in that round. He was
early
landing
too,
big shots in the fifth round, and like you said, 40 seconds, everything changed.
I would have to think that any judge, any reasonable judge, and we had reasonable judges on this one. We'll talk about whether we had reasonable judges later on for other fights, but this one we had a really solid crew here. The judges, I'll shout them out right now: Ben Cartledge, Mike Bell, and Clemens Werner. I think this is a fantastic judging trio. I think it was great that they were a part of this fight to score this fight if necessary. They weren't quite needed, but I think it's so great when we see, especially, a mix of top American judges and top European judges getting to all kind of meld into one, and you can still say, even though they judge fights in different parts of the world, they're still relatively on the same page in coming up with scores that absolutely can be defensible, right?
Yeah.
So credit to them. But again, their scores weren't needed because Jiri pulled it out. He did exactly what he needed to do at that point in the fight, which was get the finish. No hooks, gets the choke anyway.
No need.
And what did I say to you out loud when he gets? Do you remember exactly what I said out loud?
Glover's not going to tap to this with no hooks in.
Yeah, and the reason I said that is not because no one could tap to that with no hooks, right? But I had so much respect for Glover.
Yeah,
I had a lot of respect for Glover, and I just figured that's not to say I lost respect for him in this sense either. But I had this thought in my head. I'm like, he won't be able to get him with that. Glover's going to be too savvy. But he obviously got it in, and you have to think the accumulation of 24 minutes and 30 seconds of one of the most, knockdown, drag out fights that we've ever had, especially championship fights. Look, if it came to a head and he just couldn't fight it off in the way that maybe he would have, 20 minutes earlier, I get it. Makes sense.
Yeah, that was quite the fight. Instant classic.
Absolutely. Instant classic, I think we could at least call it that. Like, that's easy. It's an instant classic. Or as you have on our little outline here, instant effing classic.
Yes.
3 exclamations, all caps.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it effing or fin?
Effing.
Effing, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could obviously go on and on about that fight, but we do want to get
everyone else and is going to talk about fight IQ and all that stuff. We're just going to appreciate that fight as for what it was.
Yeah. So. I you're right. Fight IQ, you could talk about that. You could talk about holes in the game. We know they're there. It doesn't matter. We had fun watching that fight. I think that's okay to do, especially on a show like ours where we focus so much on the minutia of how you score a round and that kind of thing. Sometimes it's great to just let go and enjoy, and I think we did that. But yeah, let's move on. At least we got a couple more little topics to get into before we get into contested rounds and the scores of the rounds, 2 of which did come from that fight. We do have to get to, and this one will certainly be a part of contested rounds too, but Taila Santos giving Valentina Shevchenko her toughest challenge at 125 pounds, right?
Yeah, she took it to her. She did the best she could, and I
don't know if she took it to her exactly. I mean, it's hard to.
I guess I'm saying it, but not what I mean. I guess
I think probably what you mean is she definitely pushed her. Right? She put her in spots that she made her uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably fair to say.
She definitely exceeded all expectations.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So. There were a lot of people who really. I did think that Shevchenko was going to win a decision, although I thought it was going to be more like a kind of like a coasting type of, not coasting, but a very clear and runaway decision. And it obviously didn't play out that way, but it did end up in the end going Shevchenko's way. A lot of people are up in arms about this one still. You got people who very firmly believe that Santos should win. You've got a lot of people who feel that absolutely the Shevchenko decision is a validation of damage over control, and that kind of thing. We'll get into those points later on. But real quick, before we kind of move on with some of our other topics with this fight, the headbutt obviously is the thing that really, I think, absolutely inarguably changed the complexion of the second half of the fight.
Oh, for sure.
Which round was that in again? Was it 3 or 4?
3, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. And that was a Santos round on all 3 cards.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, it was Shevchenko was winning those final 2 rounds.
Learned that the broken orbital.
Mm-hmm. I've done that. In fact, it's almost 20 years since I had my orbital surgery. 20 years this month.
Wow.
I don't know what day.
Actually, I want to say, I think it was round 4, actually.
Okay.
The headbutt.
Yeah, I kind of thought so.
Yeah, later in the fight.
I had kind of thought so too. Yeah, it absolutely changed the complexion of the fight. Would Shevchenko have still won those final 2 rounds? I mean, you could argue it one way or the other. I tend to think, yes, she probably still would have won because, you know, the type of game that we were seeing from Santos, I don't think was necessarily affected by that. I mean, I'm sure she was affected in general, but strategically, I don't know how much it changed the way she fought. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It is very hard to say. I'm speculating more than I even really want to. You know what I mean? But it's tough. That was obviously it's not a headbutt. It's an accidental clash of heads.
Yeah.
To get the nomenclature right, correct? Do you want to see a rematch?
I would see a rematch.
Do you want to see an immediate rematch?
No, because who knows how long Santos is going to be out. So let's get Shevchenko, someone in there to fight, and then if she's still the champ, I think she had an off night a little bit. That's what it kind of seems like too.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, just the fact that she was getting taken down like that, we haven't really seen her tested against, someone with some pretty decent takedowns. And I don't know what we thought about Santos takedowns before this, but I imagine there are women out there who have takedown capabilities that are watching that and be like, huh.
She also said she was only 130.
She did say she was 130, yeah.
So that's only 5 pounds up above.
I don't know if that's typical for her these days or not. Obviously, she used to fight at 35, but I mean, she was not very large up there anyway.
And supposedly she had a foot injury all week, so who knows? I'd rather see.
No one needs feet.
I'd rather see if Santos can heal quickly, which I don't think she can. It sounds like she needs surgery in Brazil, right? So it could be a while.
I mean, an orbital is, I don't know what it is for fight sport, but I'm sure it takes a little bit of time. But, it's not. I don't think it's like a crazy thing. She could still train, grappling and that kind of thing, and stay in shape. So once they tell her the bone is healed, in theory, she should be good to go to spar and fight. I don't know how long it takes. I'm not a doctor.
Well, you know me. I want my champs to fight.
You do
a lot.
I know. So you'd prefer, if she can't be ready like really quickly, you would rather just get someone else in there.
Get someone in there. If Shevchenko keeps it, then put Santos at the front of the line.
Okay. All right. We got a little bit more I think we got to get into before these contested rounds here, and let's go to the strawweight fight, the key strawweight fight, which was, as Dana White declared earlier in the week, the clear number 1 contender fight. It was the winner was going to get the title shot against Carlos Barza, and that was definitively Zhang Weili against Joanna Jędrzejczyk here. Wow. I think she showed. You put this on here, but I agree, and I think I said it to you yesterday too. I mean, the effects of training, or the results of training with Henry Cejudo starting last year, I think bore fruit here. You really saw her use that power that I think she already had to gain grappling advantages against the cage and get it down. I don't remember if she actually got it down to the ground, but she was definitely. Did she get it down?
She got it down.
That's what I thought.
She was down. I
started to doubt myself after I said it. I was like, hold up a sec. Was my memory suspect or what?
Yeah, she looked really good in her wrestling.
She did. I mean, she was winning most moments of that fight. This was not a continuation of the first fight.
No,
and I'm not very surprised. I kind of thought that Weili would have outpaced Joanna here, just because not because Joanna necessarily hadn't been training, but just the fact that she'd been training in a different place where there was a distinct opportunity for growth, training with different people, better training partners, that kind of thing. Joanna's been in the same spot. She can't help but be stagnant in that point to a certain degree, whereas Weili is definitely getting a lot more experiences, newer experiences, different experiences, and that could only help.
Yeah, I think it's right to make her the next in line. So
yeah, absolutely. We didn't even talk about the fact that she got a nasty spinning forearm.
Yeah,
it was meant to be a back fist, but the whole forearm lands flush there, just drops Joanna straight to the mat, forward. She lands on her chin too. I was like, jeez, that was brutal.
Yeah, that was a nasty knockout.
Brutal knockout. I mean, I think people have said this, I think, already, but we might have had the fight of the night and the knockout, or fight of the year and the knockout of the year in one night. I don't know if this is it, but it's certainly in the conversation.
Oh, it's up there, yeah.
It's got to be in the conversation, if nothing else. So that just speaks to the way that I think this pay-per-view main card delivered. And even the other two fights on the main card, the earlier fights with Jake Matthews getting the win over Andre Filho.
He looked so sharp.
He looked amazing. And I think I said this on social media that there, like, you watch this fight and you realize that there's levels to significant strikes because there's that punch that lands. Yeah, he landed the punch. I think he landed that punch. You're watching Jake Matthews land, and he's not landing bombs, but the ones he's landing, those are shots. Those are significant shots.
Oh my goodness. How's he still standing, some of them?
If like a general punch is like a 5, he's landing like an 8.
Yeah,
and he was doing it like consistently.
He looked really good.
He looked so good. I was very impressed, especially because I feel like a lot of what I've seen from Jake Matthews in recent years is kind of get it to the ground, work down there. This was a fight where he really did stand up and he let his hands go. And it paid off, so I was very impressed. And of course, Jack Della Maddalena.
He looked good too, and he's stuck in the Darce or Anaconda, whatever it was, super tight, and able to get out of it, and then just tee off on Ameev.
Yeah, Ramazan Ameev, and I told you this before. I was kind of worried it was going to be a wet blanket fight.
Yeah,
because sometimes Ameev fights do end up that way. A lot of them do, and he kept it from going there, so that was nice.
Yeah. But let's get into the meat and potatoes here.
Yes, I think we have to, right? We've got how many contested rounds? We have 8? Okay.
8.
We're going to do this in 2 segments. We're going to do the title fights first, and then we're going to go into what Dan has labeled the Anthony Demetriou edition of contested rounds, because all 4 of the earlier contested rounds feature Aussie judge Anthony Demetriou as the out judge. So we'll get to those later. Let's start with these title fights. And I mean, we have Dan, we listed Prochazka and Teixeira first, but I think honestly we really ought to go with Shevchenko and Santos because this is the one. No, I understand. Yeah. Usually I'll kind of go in. I'll be like, I'm going to change the way you do this because I don't like it. Because you just do bout order. I'm like, no. We got to do it in a certain way, and I didn't do that this time, and that's on me. But I think we're gonna have a lot of people listening to the show that really want to hear what we have to say about Shevchenko and Santos, right?
Yeah.
And as we always do, we kind of stick to just the contested rounds, the ones where the judges disagreed upon. You want to talk about rounds 3, 4, 5? I mean, we could talk about it on Twitter a little bit, but realistically, we feel pretty good about the way those judges scored those rounds and everything. So let's, if you who was it? Matthew Wells, who was on our show last time we broke down a pay-per-view. He said he saw some comment earlier Sunday, we're talking Sunday, that someone said all 5 rounds should have been for Santos, and one of them might have been a 10-8. Now, I have to think they were joking, but
that's gotta be
that seems very tongue-in-cheek or trolly, just for the sake of trolling. But it was something to see. I told I said to Matt, you don't subtweet me. Like I saw the fight how I saw it. But no, I didn't see it that way. That was. But let's go to round 1, Dan, because again, this is round 1 and 2 are what we're talking about here. So what's happening in round 1, and why are we talking about this as a maybe split round?
Honestly, I think it's a really close round. At least for the first 3 minutes and 15 seconds, it's all Shevchenko. But it's really still not much of actual offense. She lands a good leg kick. She lands a good right hand off a counter. She counters with the right hand is what I mean. Then she goes for the double unders as Santos is rushing in, and she pushes her against the cage, and she lands some knees to the head and body. Nothing huge. Some decent shoulder strikes. She tries for a lateral drop, and this is where everything changes. It fails. Santos capitalizes on it, gets on the back, and locks in a body triangle, and she's making Valentina defend the choke.
Disrupting the breathing, too.
Yeah, she's holding her nose.
Not that that's effective, but you see that, and it's like there was that still shot, I think, that was circulating around, and it looked like she was like kidnapping her or something. It was just a very interesting look, especially for Shevchenko.
A little mean technique there.
Yeah.
Nothing's really getting that close though. She's locking up some like kind of neck cranks, but for a while Valentina's just on the defensive. She's just trying to prevent herself from being choked. Santos is going for it. Then Shevchenko decides, I'm just gonna start punching from here. And she's landed some good shots here while she has her back taken in a body triangle. One in particular looked like it rattled Santos, as both of her arms kind of flail a little bit, and she stops attacking the choke for like a split second. They were really good shots, I think. They more impactful than you'd normally see coming from that position. I really don't see a problem scoring it for her, but I ultimately scored it for Santos as I thought the grappling was the best offense in the round. But I think it's really close.
It's definitely closer than you would think for a fighter who took the other fighter's back, had the body triangle locked in, and was actually trying to get a choke. She didn't actually lock in any real one thing. I mean, there was a time where she like kind of had it over the the chin kind of, and
yeah, it's a kind of neck.
I'm sure it wasn't comfortable, and I think you do have to score that to some degree. You don't score that as, oh yeah, she's got the choke sunk in, but there's something there, right? There's probably damage being done. If it's a neck crank, there's damage to that, you know. I don't think you can ignore that. And again, a body triangle does score, absolutely does. You talk to anybody who's grappled, they'll tell you at least a body triangle ain't fun, and you can finish fights with body triangle. I believe it's Damian Maia who did it.
When someone takes my back and I defend them, letting them get the body triangle more than my neck.
Well, that's not smart either.
It's awful.
That is not smart either, sir.
It's not fun to be there.
But yeah, I mean, it really comes down. I think this whole round, it really just comes down to how much do you score those back punches that Shevchenko is throwing. It comes down to that for me.
I agree. I do see that. I mentioned it to you as we were watching the fight. I think that hurt her.
Yeah,
those punches, they think they're hurting her because it looked like she was rattled to me.
Sure.
So,
but you didn't score it for.
I didn't know
Shevchenko anyway. You still scored it for Santos.
I still thought Santos was better, but I still think it's a really close round.
Yeah, arm punches are really tough because like, are you ever going to finish somebody with those punches? You know, like if you have your back taken, you're in a body triangle, you can't get your hips into it, and you're just throwing punches like that. I'm sure they're a hyper annoyance when they can get some decent velocity to it. And she actually was she had her body angled a little bit, was able to get a little more into it than if she was just, straight back, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, what my tell was that she stopped attacking the neck. She's like, whoa, I'm getting hit here.
That is effect. I mean, there's a sign of effect there at least, yeah. So, yeah, I can't fault anyone, least of all Judge Clemens Werner, who scored it for Shevchenko there. Clemens Werner, who pulled double duty on the title fights. He was the only judge to work both title fights, and I think that speaks to just how sharp a judge he is, which is true. If you don't follow some of the shows that we've talked about in the past where Judge Werner has worked when they've been to like Abu Dhabi and that kind of thing, he is an absolutely superb, sharp judge who we very often agree with and almost always finds himself in the majority on scores. Him being the dissenter here, I don't think speaks to any sort of, out of whackness.
No, I think scoring this round for Shevchenko is absolutely defendable.
That said, I saw it like you. I saw it for Santos. Judges Howard Hughes and David Lethaby, they saw it for Santos as well. It's a tough one. This is a real tough one. I think there's a philosophical thing kind of here. So, the criteria is loose enoughly defined that this is a round that I think can probably go either way.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's more effective. Both are effective offense, striking and grappling. It's very tough to figure out which one deserves more there, especially because again, they're still at their heart, they're still arm punches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's round one. What about round two?
Well, I mean, this one starts pretty much, and then they're almost in the clinch almost immediately. Santos drives Shevchenko into the fence. Shevchenko's hitting her with some punches while Santos is just kind of holding on against the fence for a while. She throws a few Storley knees, no impact.
I'll never laugh. I'll never not laugh at that.
Eventually, Santos does drag Shevchenko down with a trip. It was a solid takedown. But from here, she's not doing anything. Nor does she really even try to do anything outside of a couple pitter-patter attempts at most. Shevchenko's landing some big punches and elbows from the bottom. And what really separates her as the more effective offensive fighter is when Scott started losing his mind in the middle of Buffalo Wild Wings when she attacks a solid go-go plata, which Scott nearly fell off his seat pretty much.
No. I didn't almost fall off my seat. I almost smacked a hole through your back because I'm just sitting there. I'm watching it with just bated breath, and I'm just smacking him. I'm thinking to myself, it's gonna be a go-go plata. There's gonna be a go-go plata. And no, this is not because I was rooting for Shevchenko or against Santos, but I am always going to root for that move. I don't care who you are. You could be my favorite fighter. You could be my mother. I'm going to root for the go-go plata. I love you, Mom. You're not listening, though.
But anyway, it was a really solid submission attempt. And obviously Santos gets out, but Santos is doing so little offensively. Herzog actually stands them up. I mean, this is an indication that she's not doing anything. Then Shevchenko gets a takedown of her own in one of those, typical grab the head, toss him over, end up in a scramble.
A very WMMA takedown. Yeah, that's like the Ronda Rousey legacy.
She ends up, Shevchenko in the scramble does end up back on her back and has Santos in her guard. And she, from here, continues to land some elbows and punches to finish the round. There's like 40 seconds left. Santos did nothing with any of her position. I don't think 10-9 Santos here is a good score. I think 10-9 Shevchenko is the way it should be scored here.
I do have a hard time going for for Santos in this round. I think when you're looking at the effective offense there, it really is almost one-way traffic for Shevchenko. Take the choke out of it. Even that, I think you remove the choke. Because because who knows how close that gogoplata got, as I sit here and smile, but but I think even that, if you just take that out of it, then you're just looking at, okay, what did Santos do from a grappling perspective, right? What did she do?
She chilled out in guard through a couple pitter patter strikes that did nothing.
And it was just from guard. I mean, there's no dominant position here.
Never attempted to pass.
The gogoplata itself is very much a sign of how not in control she was of that position.
Yeah, that I can't stand when they call it control time. Just call it top time.
They should just call it top time, but they don't actually, because it technically lumps in when they're in control at the cage too. If I understand right,
just get rid of the whole stat.
Either elaborate on the stat or remove it entirely. It's a stupid stat. Most MMA stats are stupid. I think that's pretty clear. They're just super stupid, and they're very hard to track, and we don't even know the methodology behind a lot of it. But yeah, like other than being in guard right there and maybe landing those pitter patter stuff, there's just not a whole lot. I think Shevchenko's definitely landing better punches, both standing and on her feet, standing on her feet and being on her back even. I think absolutely the better offense is there. Then you throw the gogoplata attempt in, which again, I don't know how close it is, but I think it's a much more effective offensive move or attack than anything that Santos does.
Completely puts it over the top.
I think so. And no disrespect to Judge Leatherby, who I have a high opinion of as well, one of the best judges in England, but I have a much easier time today after watching it a second time when I'm not at Buffalo Wild Wings complaining about my ice cream, giving this round, because I watched it again, it's very tough for me to give this round to Santos. So, ultimately, I think we have here, and Judges Hughes and Werner were the ones who saw it for Shevchenko here. So we ended up with final scores of 49-46, 48-47, and then another 48-47 the other way. I think we got the right winner here.
We got the right winner.
Because round two, you and I both feel pretty strongly about as a Shevchenko round. In rounds 4 and 5, we're deferring to the judges, and we agree with the judges ourselves. That these are 3 rounds here. If you have a very compelling case for why Santos should win round 2 in particular, I really would love to hear it. I'm not, I don't want to be like a jerk or anything. I'm open to people's, ideas and interpretations of the scoring, especially judges who, once again, I have a high opinion of Judge Leatherby, but I just think in this particular situation, Shevchenko was the right score.
I think so. I think 49-46 Shevchenko is so much more easily to defend than 48-47 Santos, and people are acting like 49-46 Shevchenko is just
laughable, the
god-awful worst score of all time, which I don't see that at all.
I do not either. Not at all. I what was it? I think it was Shawnee Sheehan was saying he was close to giving it 50-45. I loved it because he's just rubbing it in everyone's face. I love that.
I think he was just shoving it down everyone's face.
Maybe a little bit. Who knows? I feel like round 3 should have been a Santos round. I think that was fine. So I bet maybe Shawnee's being serious. Maybe he's just pushing buttons. Either way, it's fine.
I'm very happy with the 48-47 Shevchenko. I think that's a pretty solid scorecard there.
Yeah, I think so too. That's where I landed on that. This was my scorecard live. I watched it again, and honestly, I only felt more confident in my round scores a day later.
Right.
Sometimes I'll waver for one reason or another, and actually we'll kind of get to that in this next fight with Jiri Prochazka getting again the round 5 victory, 28 seconds to go, rear naked choke without the hooks. rounds 3 and 4, though, before that finish, they are split. So it does have an effect on kind of where we end up going into that 5th round. Let's talk about round 3 first, sir.
Yeah, Jiri comes out. He lands some good lefts to the face, really impactful. Glover doesn't have much of a return. He's looking for a takedown. He looks exhausted. He does get on top briefly in side control, believe it or not, as he did a lot in this fight. But Jiri scrambles up, starts landing big shots, huge body shots, elbows to the head, causes Glover to dive on a takedown and end up on his back when he can't get it, just flopping around. Jiri actually obliges him, stays on top with some solid, good ground and pound. But then he attacks an arm triangle, and Glover, very wise to it, uses it to get back on top in a scramble. Up until this point, it was looking like heading into 10-8 territory. But then Glover lands some heavy ground and pound to earn himself the 9 for me. So 10-9 Prochazka.
I also had it 10-9 Prochazka watching live. I watched it again today, and I think I'm going to stick with my original score, but I feel a lot more confident that this really could and even should be a 10-8 round because, yeah, I think it really comes down to what we've been told from officials before. Like, did he earn the 9? Teixeira being the losing fighter in this round. We're only talking about 10-8 split, so we're saying who, to what degree. If that's what it is, sometimes we're saying, okay, did Teixeira earn his 9 to avoid the 8? In a sense, yeah, he did, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that was my justification, more or less, too, when I'm watching it live. I'm saying, I think he probably earned his 9 back because he did put some decent damage on. But at the same time, you have the ability to give a 10-8 score without having to dominate the entire round, right? Yeah. So that's the other side of this coin. And, I really considered that a lot more when I was watching this the second time. It kind of came into my head as I'm watching. I'm like, you know what? This is most definitely and it's a phrase I like to use lately, it's a different round. It is different than the other ones. This is the round where it was a lot more one-way traffic.
Oh, yeah.
A whole lot more. Glover is getting beat up visibly on the feet, standing.
I don't know how he ate those body shots.
I mean, it's not just the standing shots. It's those body shots that Dan Tom, our friend Dan Tom, likes to
loves the body work.
He is the body work evangelist. Shout out to Dan if he's listening. But I think the totality of it, even with what Teixeira is giving back, especially late in the round. Before that, there's not a whole lot, right? It's just kind of in that last 45-ish seconds, even.
But basically he was kind of gifted that position anyway.
Yeah. Because there's the choke attempt too, right? And it doesn't really work, but when Jiri kind of jumps for that too, so it's not just the strikes, and the strikes are doing a lot too. But there's that extra there too. Even man, Clemens Werner's our 10-8 score here, right? I really want this to be a 10-8 round. I want this to be a round that is a 10-8, and I think the scoring justifies it. I think Clemens Werner is absolutely justified to give a 10-8 here.
I'm okay with it.
But again, I will stick with my original instinct, my gut instinct to say a 9 here, because I think, there's totally a philosophy that can justify that. Maybe there's room to clarify stuff like this a little bit further in the criteria, because I'm always looking for little ways that I don't think you need to overhaul the judging criteria entirely. I mean, there's ways I would change it more macro than micro, but I think you can get more micro changes in to improve things like this. So maybe it's a lot more clear how a judge is meant to score this round 8 or a 9, rather than giving the freedom to do it. There might be a little more written doctrine that says, like, hey, a round like this can go there. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to codify with the words, but I feel like there's ways to do it.
Yeah, that there should be.
Round 4, though. The other round from this fight. This is about who won the round, and what a wild round.
This was a wild round. I think it's a pretty close round. I want to put it out there. Live, I scored this one for Prochazka. On rewatch, I like Teixeira more. Early, he lands a couple good punches on Jiri. Jiri turns fire with 2 good front body kicks. They're pretty good. Glover's throwing head kicks where a round ago he looked half dead. I'm like, where did he find this energy? It was kind of amazing. Then Glover
It's amazing how either of them found energy at various points of this fight. They both looked dead in the water with like 2.5 rounds to go.
I feel Jiri was more tired this round, though. This is where it really started showing.
Well, he was tired
Somehow.
from beating him up in round 3.
Glover lands a nice left that slightly wobbles him, probably more of an off balance of Jiri, and works it into a big takedown from where he eventually mounts, lands big ground and pound, good elbows and punches. Then he attacks an arm triangle. Doesn't fully commit because you can tell it's not fully in.
No, it's not.
Lets it go, lands a few more shots, and then he pounces on a really tight arm triangle. And he goes to the other side. He knows he's got it locked in pretty good. For at least like 15 seconds, I'd say Prochazka's fighting this.
The one thing I'll say for Prochazka is Jiri or Glover is not quite able to keep him as flat as I think he would like to have, right?
Yeah,
Jiri's kind of gets up a little bit to his side, and I think that's really what saved him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where I thought Prochazka may have originally taken the round back after he escapes here, because he gets on top and he starts landing some pretty solid ground and pound. But Glover works his way back up, finds himself on Jiri's back again. Doesn't do much from there, and in another scramble, Jiri lands back on top of him and lands a little bit of ground and pound. It was a super wild round, but on rewatch, I think Teixeira is the right call here.
I think so too. When we watched this after the round, you said your score, and I was actually quite surprised that you went that way. Not that I thought it was a bad score, but I did think that Teixeira was the better score here, just because, again, I think he did have better offense on the whole, with the choke attempt, with some of the strikes he's landing too. I think the choke attempt makes the difference. But it's close. It is close. This was definitely a round, like so I said before, I think there were some rounds where I felt more vindicated by my score on second watch. This one I actually thought got closer on second watch in a sense. I can totally even more see why Judge Bell, who was the out judge here, saw this one for Prochazka. But I do think I still feel pretty good about Teixeira being the rightful winner of this round, even though, again, I think you can justify in the criteria either way.
Yeah.
Right? Judges Cartledge and Werner, they were the ones who saw this for Teixeira, just like you and I did. So, I ended up having the same scorecard through 4 rounds as Ben Cartledge. You do now, but initially you had the same one as Judge Bell.
Yeah, I was even going into the 5th live.
But again, it really didn't matter because, we all watched that round. I think any judge would probably tell you that with 40 seconds to go, or 60 seconds to go, what have you, that's a Teixeira round. And let's say, Glover Teixeira is able to ride out this chokes for some reason for 30 seconds. It's not quite as locked in, right? I don't even know if that changes it. It's hard to say because a lot of things can happen, but...
No, yeah, you should be good there.
I feel like he did a lot in that round.
He hit him with heavy, heavy shots.
Yeah.
Had him hurt bad.
Yeah.
It's like, that would have been
what a display of guts by both these men. Like, you always hear, and I said this last night when we were watching the fights too, it's like, once they start talking about toughness, that fighter just is not having a good night. But I think both of these men, win and in victory and in defeat, I think they both showed toughness in MMA that we ought to appreciate and admire, that these two men can withstand and give back and continue on and fight on. And Teixeira, between rounds, what were they saying? He was like, yeah, let's do this. I'm going to win this. He was very confident, even as this was after the potential 10-8 round. I believe. I think it was between rounds 3 and 4 that he said this. This is a supremely confident man who's been through the fires before, but I think this was the hottest of fires he's ever walked through. He didn't quite make it out of, but I think he proved a lot to a lot of people. This is he's got a title fight. Now he's got an all-time great fight. His legacy, I think, only goes up, even in defeat.
Yeah, this was fantastic. I don't know any more else words to say.
You want to watch them again right away, or you think it should be someone else?
I would let them watch it again.
Yeah.
I think they match up so well that these two can just go kill each other for another 5 rounds. Like,
I prefer they don't die.
I feel
we had a boxer die recently, sir. Let's be mindful of the death words.
I just think Jiri's so wild and so not anti-defense, but doesn't really care too much about the defensive.
He's less interested in self-preservation.
Yeah, that's the journalist there. And I think Glover gets hit enough and he's tough enough that they just mesh.
Yeah. And the other thing too, you got to figure, like, if you don't make an immediate rematch, I don't know how much longer Glover Teixeira really wants to stick around. Like, he was talking before the fight about, dream scenario would be he defends here, then he fights Jan Blachowicz again. at Madison Square Garden later this year, and then he walks off into the sunset. He wasn't saying this is definitely what he was going to do or that this was definitely his last year. It sounds like it was still very much up in the air, and he's going to let things kind of come as they go. And I think he feels pretty energized by this fight, but realistically, he's going to be 43 probably the next time he fights. So how many more chances are we going to get to make this rematch of a really fantastic fight? So I hope they bring that fight to Madison Square Garden anyway. I hope they do a rematch. They bring it here. I get to cover it. I get to be there, hopefully. That would be wonderful.
I get to spend $400 on a ticket.
There you go.
So awesome.
You'd go for this one.
I would go just, for that.
This is if you get that fight, you would go.
Yeah.
You'd pay $400. You'd say, shut up and take my money.
Yeah, I'd have to go.
You would. That's it for the title fights, though. Now we move into the second phase of contested rounds, which, again, Dan has labeled the Anthony Demetriou edition.
I mean, what else would you label it?
It's a fair label, Unfortunately, when you have a judge who, and that's not even to say necessarily that we'll get into the details of how we feel about those rounds, but if you've got 4 round scores on the prelims outside of these title fights from the same judge being the one who disagrees, yeah, all right, I think we'll probably, have to call it kind of this little subsection, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to get into, I think, the one that most people felt most surprised by. We'll go there, right? And that was Josh Kulabau, who got the victory over Sung-Woo Choi. And no one's disagreeing necessarily that the right guy or the wrong guy won, right? Everyone feels it pretty much ended up the right man had his hand raised here. 29-28's all around. Round 1 is our split round, decider of the fight. What happens here?
Oh, really slow start. Not much of anything going on.
Yeah, when I was watching live, I was looking at my menu because I was bored.
So
I was trying to figure out if I wanted that ice cream cake or not.
Yeah, so it was pretty even throughout the first couple minutes. No real significant action. Choi's probably slightly ahead, and then Kulabau blasts Choi, has him hurt pretty badly, and then hurts him again. Stoppage. If they stopped it, I don't think anyone would have complained that it was a bad stoppage. Choi, to his credit, recovers, lands a huge elbow, and has Kulabau hurt. Lands another punch, but gets stuck in a clinch in the round ends. I think it's pretty easy Kulabau here. 10-9.
I think it's a very easy Kulabau round. Anthony Demetriou did not see it that way. He saw it for Choi. And so again, when this fight got off to a pretty boring start, I was checking it out because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get some food. I'm starting to get hungry, right? That's why when I checked in when the action started heating up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when we were kind of talking about this on social media initially, I wasn't really ready to commit to any sort of deeper feeling about this round because I don't think it's fair to get very heavily invested in your opinion if you're not watching the full 5 minutes of the round, right?
Mm-hmm.
I watched it back again, and yeah, basically nothing happened in the time I wasn't watching, so I legitimately didn't really miss anything impactful. But during those final, let's say 2 minutes or so, it's not one-way traffic. Choi is in the fight, but he is not winning this round. He is hurt.
Yeah.
He's legit hurt. Immediate impact is what we're looking for when we're scoring these rounds. It's over the cumulative effects of the punches being landed. It's the immediate impact. That's what we want. And we absolutely, definitively have that from Kulabau here. No question.
Yeah, we do have it. And then we also get it from Choi, but not to the degree that Kulabau had Choi hurt.
Yeah, that's again, kind of want to rate these punches. I would say at the best, Kulabau's landing, I don't know, let's call it a 5 or a 6. And I think we have Kulabau is landing somewhere in the 8-9 range at one point. He really drops him. I mean, he drops him pretty darn good to his knees.
I think a stoppage would have been not really looked at as an early stoppage.
I do. I actually think that would have been an early stoppage, but
I don't know. He was hurt.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't in a good way, that's for sure. But everyone would have been like, come on, you can't let them go farther. You know that.
I guess.
But nonetheless, the fight did continue. They persisted. But yeah, I just don't see how you can justify this. I would love to hear what Anthony Demetriou had to say about this round when I presume they talked about it later, because this is a very hard round to justify. This goes beyond kind of, I missed one shot or something like that, right? The ref was in the way. When there's enough going on in this round that I think it's very easy to give it to Kulabau no matter what. So yeah, this is a bad score. It really is a bad score. And we don't say that often.
We don't, no. I've said it twice tonight. So.
Yeah. I think this is a way worse score than let's say the Santos round 2. Because I think when I was watching Shevchenko Santos round 2, I thought it was closer. I still had it that way for Shevchenko, but I only felt even stronger the second day.
I didn't know. When we saw those live odds pop on the screen, you saw me dart to my phone.
Well, yeah. I mean, I knew that was the right thing to do.
I was pretty confident that Valentina won that round.
Sure.
And only two of them gave it, so I guess.
But I think this is even tougher. I really do.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying,
we're just comparing them.
Yeah, these two rounds,
This is the worst round that we've tried to talk about, I think, in a while on this show, as far as UFC rounds.
Yeah, this wasn't a good score.
It's pretty egregious. Judges Evan Field and Howard Hughes, they scored this one for Coulibaugh. So ultimately, the fight still goes to Coulibaugh. He wins. It was good to see. From what I understand, Evan Field, by the way, is a good judge based in Australia. He has respect in the officiating community. And Howard Hughes, he's I believe he's actually an English judge.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not Aussie. Honestly, just from talking to officials a little bit, it sounds like it really comes down to Australia, because we've had issues with Aussie judging before for many years. Honestly, it really comes down to they just don't get enough work.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's really what it comes down to. So I think you gotta hope that they can develop their officials more. I don't know if they can get more work, or if it maybe involves something kind of that we've seen in the United States with the CSAC, where they'll have judges get together and talk about rounds more. Or in England, they've started to do that as well. And they were also part of what CSAC did as well. Maybe we need to see more Aussie judges getting involved in some of these meetings, especially the ones with CSAC. I mean, I'm sure they'd be welcome to come. Andy Foster seems welcome to have any official, any media member. Pretty much if you're coming in good faith, he seems happy to have you. And I would I would hope that more.
The MMA betting community would not be coming in good faith.
No,
at all.
If you're a bettor and you're listening to our show, hey, welcome. Hope you stay. I think you could probably learn some things that could probably earn your way to more money. You'll probably enhance your winnings. But yeah, you're very passionate about your wins and your losses. So I don't think you'd be very welcome at one of these meetings. You just don't. Let's move on though. We've got 3 more Anthony Demetriou rounds to get to. Starting with Kyung Ho Kang, who got a win over Dana Bakary. 29-28 all around. Seemed pretty similar, or pretty straightforward, right? We figured out, it was going to be round 1 for Bakary, round 2 for and then 3 for Kang. We weren't any the wiser, and then the scorecard comes out, and we actually have 2 rounds where Demetriou is the out judge. And look, these things happen. They do. And they can be totally justified when they do. So that in and of itself isn't necessarily a red flag. And this actually happened before the Coulibaugh fight, so we weren't already thinking about this man as much. I mean, we were a little bit, but also not that bad. So let's get into round 1 first to talk about the scoring here.
Yeah, a good start from Kang, sorry. And I think he's probably had most of the round. He's swelled up the eye of Bakary with his jab. Good jab, solid jab. And Bakary's calf is starting to turn purple because Kang's landed a bunch of calf kicks. Bakary keeps pace with the kicks, maybe not as effective there, but Bakary was landing the heavier head strikes, and in the final minute, he lands a big uppercut, then lands another big punch that has Kang retreating. Bakary lands a couple shots against the cage before the round ends. It was close, but I think Bakary wins it in that final minute. I don't hate a Kang score, but I do think Bakary is the better score.
Yeah, I think you summed it up right. I don't think this is a bad score at all from Judge Demetriou to go the other way, but yeah. Bakary felt like the right call in the moment. When I watched it again, it felt like the right call. But you can justify it. And that's really, it comes down to justification. Can you justify it based on the criteria? And I think you can. Absolutely. I should say too, Dan, because I noticed this on the broadcast, they have been listing, because they'll list like the family name, the name you would call them, right? So like Urban or Fontana.
Yeah.
They did list Dana instead of Bakary. So even though we wrote Bakary on our little outline, and I have been doing this too, I'm just as guilty. I think we're supposed to say Dana.
Okay.
As his last, no, not his last name, but as his family name, right?
I suppose. I remember DC talking to Anik about this during this fight.
And Anik was trying to make Cormier Daniel happen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still don't know what was the...
He's now called CD.
CD.
He's CD. Well, that would ruin the whole branding, so we'll stick with it.
I love CD.
Yeah, I've still got some CDs. All right, round 2. What's happening in round 2?
Khan continued to attack the chewed-up calf of Bakary in this round. He stumbled him early with a stiff jab, and really his jab and calf kick won him this round. These are strong, they're effective. Bakary does have some spurts of good offense, some good combos and leg kicks. It wasn't really a blowout by any stretch, but I think it falls into the close but clear category round for Khan. So 10-9 Khan.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We're getting into a little more of like I don't know, Anthony. I don't know about this round. But it's less egregious, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's just Bakary's offense is just kind of so spread out.
Yeah.
And Kong is pretty much throughout the entire round landing solidly. And Mike Bisping makes a point that, these strikes are hard. Just because they're a jab doesn't mean it's not
absolutely
effective immediately.
In MMA especially. But I mean, same principle can apply in boxing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't love it. I don't love this round going to Dana instead of Kong here. I think judges Cartledge and Hughes, I think they got this one, let's say, not correct, but I think they got the more representative scores of those rounds. So, right man won. And like I said, all these scores are, they match everything. At the end, it's unanimous 29-20. It's just imagine some of the fights that we had over the years where all we knew was the final score and we didn't know the round breakdown. How many times maybe we ended up having some interesting scorecards that we just didn't know, none the wiser, right? And I don't think because there's always wonder that people like conspiracy theorists will have, right? Did they try to score it to make up for what they did earlier? I don't think they would really do that. If they don't know where they stand, though. But if they don't know where they stand,
how can you do that?
How could you do that?
Right.
Absolutely. Like you're just, unless you have some sort of buyer's remorse or something like that, and you luck into a split round that I think maybe you can go the other way. But we're going down a conspiracy theory hole that I don't really like to go down. I don't believe in what I'm saying here. I'm just kind of floating the idea there. I don't believe in this happening, especially at this level, I think. Although, I'm thinking more about, judges like Cartledge or even Hughes as opposed to Demetriou. Because, again, I have a lower opinion of Aussie judging. I think it has a ways to go.
Okay.
And it's still better than Texas.
Yeah, we'll talk about them later.
Oh, God, yeah, that's right. And then one more round, one more fight, sir. And this is the curtain jerker. I didn't actually watch this fight live because I was out for my birthday dinner with my family.
There you go.
Had some cheese tortellini Alfredo.
Delicious.
I love me some Alfredo sauce. It's so good. All right, but yeah, so it was Joseline Edwards moving up to featherweight to face Ramona Pascual. She got unanimous nod, 30-27 and 229-28. So round 1 is the only round we're talking about here and had no effect on the winner ultimately. But yeah, what happens here?
It was a pretty good round for Edwards most of the way. She's not landing anything too immediately impactful. She just seems to be throwing a lot of front kicks to the leg and stomach.
But not big at all. Not at all.
Yeah, more cumulative than anything. Might pay off over time. And I do think she was winning the round for a while. But Pascual landed some strikes of her own until she lands that big body kick and a strong knee to the body that doubles over Edwards, follows up with some punches, then lands a solid head kick, a total round-changing sequence. I think this is a pretty easy call to go Ramona Pascual. 10-9.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that too. I think it wasn't quite easy. Like it was like a subtle taking over of the round, right?
I mean, I thought the whole round changed. I mean, she's doubled over. She's hurt.
But I think it was because, again, you're talking about in the early part of the round, it's all Edwards, even though it's not that much. What I'm saying is how much she was able to then take back the round from what Edwards did. I thought it was a little more gradual, at least in my mind, as I'm scoring it in my head, her actually doing enough to overtake what had happened earlier. But I think she got there, and I think she got there pretty solidly.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of think it was kind of just such a switch.
Okay. I mean, I guess we agree to disagree, but we end up at the same place, right? It's a harder round, I think, to justify scoring it for Edwards than either of the rounds from Kong and Dana, right?
Yeah.
Not quite at the level of giving round 1 to Choi and thus the fight. That would have been a travesty, by the way. If another judge, but that's why we have 3 judges. We don't need 5. We already got We already got the winner with the
Wouldn't
two
it-
judges.
Wouldn't have been a tragedy for everybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's one guy and his friends and family who would really been happy about it. And that's Troy.
He was the only failed leg of my parlay.
That's right.
So-
Yeah, don't trust bettors and their scores, says the guy who's betting and scoring.
Listen, I scored it the other way.
You do a good job of separating.
Like-
You do. No, I will say that you do a good job of compartmentalizing, separating, accepting. Okay, it lost.
Yeah, it lost.
And that's ultimately what it comes down to. I feel like a lot of bettors, and I don't bet, but I feel like a lot of bettors just don't like that they lost, and it's like a hard luck loss. They're like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Bad beat.
Yeah, then they can't get over it. So
Yeah.
it's also I'm not betting with my life savings. It's just a little chump change.
just a couple $100,000 a
yeah,
week.
that's it.
Yeah. You should see the house that Dan lives in. It's actually made of money. It's weird. People just run up and take it, and he's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I stole some inspiration from DuckTales, and I have a pool of gold coins.
And even with all of that in mind, we still just do this show in like a little, like, it's a bigger than a closet, but smaller than like a nice room, surrounded by all of Dan's clothes, which actually work as a good audio dampening
Yeah.
system. So
So
let's just pretend this was all by design.
it's by design.
That is it, though, for the Anthony Demetriou edition of the contested rounds. So we have one round that we think is perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
One round that's might be better to go the other way.
Mm.
Another round that's kind of looks like it should go that way, and then another round that's like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Not great from Anthony Demetriou. I would definitely be concerned the next time I see that name on a UFC event when they return to that region of the world.
On the whole, they turned in 23 rounds. 15 were unanimous. One of the 8 rounds was a 10-8 that we went over.
Mm-hmm.
4 rounds belonged to Anthony Demetriou. So
And it's unfortunate too, because I think if you bring in, let's say a more experienced judge, let's say they were able to bring in more than just Mike Bell from the United States, or more than just judges David Leatherby and Ben Cartledge and Howard Hughes from I was saying from England, but yeah, Clemens Werner as well from mainland Europe. I think we've had a lot of judges who have done really great work from Europe come out of there. Anders Olsen comes to mind, who also referees. I think we would ideally get a couple more judges from there, but you hope that it's developing other judges. There were a few that really we didn't have any need to talk about, like Garth Harriman. Worked that one as well. I believe he's an Aussie judge as well. He didn't come up, so yeah, I would like to think that part of the world can develop its officials, but I wonder if it's just there needs to be more communication with kind of the other parts of the world, or trying to get more involved again with some of the entities that are really trying to improve the state of judging, like CSAC, like what they're doing in England as well. Mark Goddard. Hopefully, Mark Goddard was over there. He was refereeing. Hopefully, they can work together. Mm-hmm. and make the sport better for everybody, even when they go to different parts of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all we want. We just want everyone to get it right. Can't get it right all the time, but we can try.
We can certainly strive for it.
Yes. And finishes-wise, though, of course, we had some fantastic fights, some fantastic finishes. 6 in total. 5 were TKO or KO. 1 was the sub. We already know that one. And 3 ended in the first round. Which of those 6 was your favorite?
Jake Matthews finishing Andre Fiallo with punches. He just looks so good.
He looked excellent. I mean, that's accumulation of that's like the culmination, I should say, of Matthews' amazing performance. Right.
Just it ended the way it should have for how good he looked,
and for what he was doing all around. Like, it was just like boom, boom, boom with these shots. It was like
thunderous.
Man. Yeah.
What about you?
Zhang Wei Li, the way she retired Joanna Jędrzejczyk with a spinning forearm. That was a thing of beauty. It didn't land the way she wanted. It didn't matter. Produced an even better result, possibly. And that is, unfortunately for Joanna, that is the last sight that we will have of her as a competitor, assuming she actually stays retired and doesn't do hashtag MMA retirements. So another shout out to Shawnee Sheehan. What do you think about, real quick, before we kind of move on to looking ahead, what do you think is Joanna's biggest contribution to this sport during her career? Because I think she's a pioneer in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I guess for the lower women's weights, I would suppose.
The lighter weights.
Yeah, the lighter women's weight. She was basically the next. I guess you say Rousey. I don't know. Rousey was pretty dominant.
She wasn't really the same thing
until it. Not really the same thing, but I'm saying for the lesser weights, like I guess she put a spotlight there. Like she was kind of must see for a while.
She was like a face.
Yeah.
She was like the actual real face there, right? And they needed that. Absolutely. Not that, and no disrespect to, the original champion of that division, Carla Esparza, who now reigns over that division as well. I know you're not a fan of her. I understand, but I'm just saying I'm not trying to disrespect her. I have no reason to. We had somebody in Joanna that was charismatic. You either liked her or you didn't like her. There's a lot of people who have very strong opinions on her to this day. And I think that's a testament to what she was able to bring to the table and bring to that weight class and really put it on the map in a way that it really wasn't before.
Mm-hmm.
And she did that without necessarily being this force who was knocking people out or anything like that. A lot of her fights went to decision. A lot of them were clear decisions that she was winning. She had a good stoppage of Carla Esparza, right? But most of the wins were just, she was kind of outclassing everybody with volume, with kicks and all that stuff. But it came down to the force of her personality was really what broke through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think ultimately she left the sport in a better place because she was there.
Yeah, I agree.
Good on her. Looking ahead now, moving on from Singapore, moving on from UFC 275, we have PFL is back, which I had misplaced in my schedule until you put it on our outline. So thank you for that. They're in Georgia as they start the second leg of their regular season, PFL 4 as they call it, because they use the same numbers 1 through 10 every year. And I don't know why they just call it PFL 4 like 2022 or something like that. I don't know, whatever. But we got light heavyweights, we got lightweights. It's Clay Collard against Alex Martinez at lightweight. Antonio Carlos Jr. is going against, what's his name? Soto?
Soto.
That's it?
No, there's another name. I forgot it.
That's what we're supposed to call him, though?
I'll look it up. I must have just forgot about what his actual full name was.
Oh.
I didn't really think we'd spend much time there.
Well, I mean, I'm going to name the guy.
I guess.
That's all right.
I think it's Bruno Soto, but let me double check.
All right, you can double check that. But while we do,
Bruce Soto.
Bruce Soto. Bruce Soto at 205.
And you also got House Mafio.
The defending champion, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Stevens is on this card. So.
Yeah. If you're interested in Jeremy Stevens, he's there.
Natan Schultz.
Yup. I'm not super jazzed up by this card ultimately. The problem is because they had to postpone Anthony Pettis' original fight competing at lightweight. They postponed it. He wasn't quite ready, and they pushed it back. They accommodated that for him, and now he is not part of the light heavyweight slate. He would have been absolutely, especially after his win in the first leg, he would have been the big star, the main attraction, the headliner. They don't really have that. Clay Collard is interesting. I'm interested in him. I think he is a real threat to win this lightweight season.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a pretty decent card. I was actually one I might tune into.
I mean, I'm going to tune in anyway, but I'm not in love with it.
All right.
I like because the way they're doing it, obviously they have 4, 5, and 6. 5 is I think actually the least attractive for me, and then 6 that's got the welterweights. The welterweight division that PFL has is actually quite compelling, except for we'll talk about it in a couple weeks. I don't want to get too deep into it. I think probably those two fights, Carlos Jr. and Clay Collard, those are the ones I'm most interested in.
Okay.
And then that's Friday. Saturday, UFC goes to Austin, Texas, which they haven't been to in many years. I think 5 years. They're ready to get weird, as they say there, right? And what does that mean?
That was a Portland thing.
No, I think Austin is about let's get weird or something, right?
I thought that was Portland.
I think Portland just is weird. They don't tell you they're weird. They just are. I don't know. I've never been to Portland. I've never been to Austin. I love
Texas, the real world, and I want to say the real world Portland season. That was a theme.
Sir, I haven't watched Real World in a long time. I got nothing to say. But what I can say is that this being in Texas, we're getting Texas judges.
Yeah.
We alluded to that before. We don't love Texas judges. But, and this is a big but, in a good way, it's not Houston judges. For the first time in a long time, they're going to Texas, and we're not getting the typical Texas judges probably, because they typically don't travel out of that region when the UFC goes there. There are other judges in other parts of this massive state. So I don't think we'll have to see the likes of JJ Ferraro or, Patrick Patlan I don't. Or what was was Robin Williams? Was that the other one who we were mad about, or was no Robert Alexander? Excuse me.
Oh yeah.
Robert Alexander was the latest persona non grata from Houston, so we won't have any of them. Presumably, we'll have a whole new group of judges to potentially get really mad about. But hopefully, it can't be worse than Houston, could it? Could it?
Who knows?
We'll see. The fights are looking pretty good though. This is a nice card. Headline Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett at 45.
Yeah, that should be fun.
I like it. It's going to be a good fight. I mean, Kattar, he's always bringing that high volume stuff. Even when he loses to Max Holloway in a beatdown, he still brought the volume.
And he brought it to Giga earlier
this
year.
Yes, he did. That was a good fight. That was like the early... I mean, it was the first fight, so it was really...
It was the early... Yeah.
It was the early front runner for fight of the year, but literally it was the first main event of the year. So
it was kind of...
But it was a good fight.
It was kind of dubbed as... They set the bar pretty high.
They did.
So.
I think it's been passed, but I think we should still remember how great a fight that was. We had a good time with it. It's a good fight. Just won't stand the test of time as far as being a great fight, right? Do you have a feeling about how this fight might go yet? I know you're even moving away from predictions too.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not really. I'm just expecting a banger.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely a worthy main event. We've also got, and this fight was postponed after I think Cerrone fell ill or something like that. Donald Cerrone against Joe Lozon. This is the co-main. I like that it's actually now it's almost a semi more prominent spot instead of being the opener of a pay-per-view. It's like the co-main on an interesting fight night.
I'm just happy that they got a crowd because I know Joe Lozon was pretty bummed about the potential of having to have to do this fight in front of the Apex.
Sure, and I'm sure Donald Cerrone probably prefers it that way too.
Yeah.
SF 155, I like that one too. Kyle Dawkins, as he calls himself, the Darce Knight.
It's a great nickname.
But I believe it was also used for Tony Ferguson, I think is the issue.
Okay.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I don't care. I mean, there's how many pit bulls have we had? I don't care.
A lot of pit bulls.
Doesn't bother me, but people have pointed that out.
Does Arlovsky still go by Pitbull?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was he
going to change it to?
I didn't know if he actually still had them say it when he gets announced.
I think they do. But yeah, so Dawkins is going against Roman Dolidze. Decent fight too. I like it. Mm-hmm. Is it going to end in a Darce choke?
Probably.
Maybe they both Darce choke each other at the same time in some sort of weird, impossible position.
That would be something.
Kevin Holland and Tim Means, they're going at it 170. Kevin Holland is a little bit of a surprising booking, I think, for him. I love Tim Means fights. They're always good. But I am actually just a little surprised they didn't give Kevin Holland, I guess, let's say a bigger name or someone higher up in the rankings, I guess.
I mean, Tapology has them both 24 and 25 welterweight worldwide, right. So I guess maybe.
I have a high opinion of Tim Means. I just don't know where he sits in the rankings. So hearing that, like, okay, that makes more sense. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, fine with me.
You got Joaquin Buckley. There's a lot of names on this card.
Adrian Yanez, who I interviewed for my Q&A that's coming out in a few days as well.
Julian Marquez, who one of the all-time fumbles.
Oh, yeah. He definitely dropped the ball there. He could have actually taken Miley out on a date, maybe.
Probably, yeah, he could have.
Yeah, it's never going to happen now.
Court McGee's on this card.
Court McGee is still going and still showing that he is better than Addiction. Good for him.
Yeah. And women-wise, I think Jasmine Jasuda Vicious is also on this card. Who I was pretty high on off the Contender Series, and she just had a win over Kay Hansen. So,
what's better, her win or your pronunciation of her name?
I did it very good. I think
it was all right.
Jasuda Vicious.
You got it. Yeah, that was better. I like that one. That flowed.
Yeah,
I like it.
Look at me.
Yeah, look at you. Look at you with the beard and everything. It's gonna be a good weekend of fights,
yes.
But it can't top this one, really.
This is a tough act to follow.
It by default can't, because we're already talking about great fights that mean something too. I think it's hard to top that unless you just if all these men and women go out there and it's just like banger, 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 knockout, Gogo Plata.
Yeah.
Throw a Gogo Plata in there, maybe we'll change my mind.
All first round make us have 0 contested rounds for the first time in 100 and something shows.
What would we do?
Almost 200 shows.
What would we do?
We'll think of something. We'll just celebrate.
What if we just did like a 5-minute show?
Listen, we got nothing to talk about.
Guys,
I
hope you had fun. Go eat a burger. See you later.
And that does it for this episode of the Couchside Judges. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again with more fights to break down on Monday.
Yeah, that thing we usually do.
Yeah,
Go get your burger, like I said. If you're a vegetarian, have a salad.
Salad's good for you.
I don't like salad.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I had one yesterday.
I had a bunch of pizza today.
That's pretty good.
Take care, everybody. Have a good week.
Thanks for listening.